Good morning, beautiful people on YouTube. How are we doing today? Put it down in the comments. Tell me how you are doing in your life, in your relationships, in your wealth, in your purpose, in your career, in your business. Tell me what's going on, good and bad, because I've been in both spots. And that's sort of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the steps that I've taken and that you can take in order to manifest, which is such a cringy word at this point, but just bring into your life more prosperity, more goodness, more love, more God. Really, is what it comes down to me. And just to give you guys a little bit of a background, I'm not a millionaire, okay? So this isn't how to make millions. That video is coming. But I do make enough money per month that I only really need to work like 4 to 6 days. And those aren't even 8-hour days. Those are like 3-4 hour days in order to make enough money. Take my family all over the United States and abroad to travel. You know, make sure my kids have in excess of everything they need. Make sure my wife has anything she wants or needs. Give money away, which is a really nice thing to do. And I'll tell you a story about something that happened yesterday that was really just a blessing on me, probably more so than the people that received the money. But there's a couple things. Number one is going to be programming. You're going to have to come to grips and realize how the human mind works. Okay? And it's created by God. So that's number one. God created this entire planet, you, the birds, the trees, and everything operates under a system, a program. You know, think of it like a computer. You know, if everything was so random, which it's not, but if mainstream science wants you to believe everything's random, if everything was so random, there's just no way that all this stuff would work exactly the way it's supposed to. Take all these beautiful trees, for example. You know, God created a system to where a seed is to be planted in fertile soil. Okay, then water, which is hydrogen, oxygen, has to go into the seed. I'm looking for a word there, but go into the seed. And then after that, there needs to be some sunlight in order to make photosynthesis, in order to grow that tree, okay? Every single thing in this universe that he created operates under a system. And the way your mind works, which is really interesting to me, is that you have a conscious mind, which is the mind that is, overthinking. And then you have an unconscious mind, like the one that's holding this selfie stick right now. I've been holding this selfie stick for 2 or 3 minutes, and I haven't really thought about that. I've just been doing it. You know, when I brush my teeth, I'm probably consciously thinking of a lot of other stuff, but I'm subconsciously brushing my teeth and thinking about the act of brushing my teeth. Like I'm a soccer player, and I have been for over 25 years now, and I play every week in an adult league, and I've gotten so subconscious with the things I do that I'm thinking more about the end goal than the little bitty steps. My touch is just dang near messy perfect at this point. And I really mean that. Like, I do things that I can't even believe I just did. Now, I'm not playing in, the Premier League doing it. I'm doing it here in my hometown with a bunch of other guys who, either have or haven't played in a while. That's neither here nor there, but I am subconsciously, controlling that ball because of the repetition. Okay, and that's going to bring us into number 2. I'm not going to quite go there yet, though. Let's stick to the subconscious, right? When you were a kid, you were programmed. And I see this all the time. I saw this a lot when I would go on mission trips. I just assumed that, like, children were good because I grew up in a church. And children were good. Like, they were taught to be good. They went to schools here in Lucedale, where I'm from. That most everybody here either goes to a church or so closely related to people who are in church that they're inadvertently, there's the ice cream people, inadvertently influenced by people. Like most most Sunday school teachers are actually teachers here. So even if you don't go to church, you're just around so many people who do. And it's not just about church, it's just about a way of living, okay? But when I would go on these mission trips, say to Kentucky, in these really poor areas, man, some of these kids were like, they had worse language tendencies than the worst adults I had ever met. And they would lie and cheat and steal, and they were 7 years old, you know? And I realized then that, wow, you know, it's really not their fault. They're a product of their environment, and we're all a product of our environment. So that's something to understand, okay? It's not your fault, but it kind of is. It's not your fault that you grew up in a particular environment, but once you gain this knowledge that you are like a computer software and programmed, you can then do step number 2, which is reprogram yourself. And I'll just give you an example. For me, you know, I was programmed to think, and this is no shade to my family because they're great, but they were also programmed, and then they were also programmed, and it's just you inherit your programming. That's the other interesting thing, is like the programming you have now probably started like 100 years ago. Okay, so you just keep adopting the same old program. But the programming for me was, you know, money doesn't grow on trees. We don't have a lot of money. You know, we're not rich people. You know, money's hard to get, easy to lose. Don't spend money because you'll run out. You know, all those things. And they meant well, right? But the truth is that mindset perpetuated that program. If you keep feeding into the program gets stronger and stronger, and then you're gonna pass it down to your kids. And that's just the way it is. So that was the programming that I had as a kid. And I had that programming probably up until I was about 28 years old, 29 years old. I'm only 32 now. So, you know, your boy had to suffer for a long time. And I kind of always also wondered in the back of my head why my parents never taught me about money. And I don't mean like I knew what money was. They helped me open a bank account. They taught me how to save some money. They taught me a few things, and then I got to observe the mistakes of my parents and grandparents, and that was kind of a teaching thing too. But I always thought to myself, when I would see these giant colonial houses in downtown Mobile, where I would see these people in nice cars or just rich people, in the back of my head I said, they know something that I don't know. They know something that we don't know. And I always had that thought. I mean, even from just like a small child. And that is what we're going to get into in step 2. Once you realize your program and accept it, it's not a big deal. It's nothing to cry about. If I showed you guys the house I grew up in, and if my mom was to write down on paper how much she brought in a month, it would be staggering by today's American standards. Like, how did you guys live off of that? But we did. And we were happy, and it was fine. And my mom worked several different jobs to make sure that me and my brother always felt, you know, if Tommy Hilfiger was the new thing at school, we had it. Don't ask me how. She made it happen. She went into debt too, I believe, you know, doing some of these things for us. But that was just, you know, coming from a good place. She wanted to make sure that we didn't feel any different from any of the other kids. And that there might be the reason I am the way I am today, because she might have subconsciously, or accidentally rather, have been programming me to have nice things, despite what, you know, the bank account may say. Well, let's get into step 2, because you're ready for that, right? So you've identified the fact that you are a computer program and that you've been programmed. And that's why you see people who have been in a rich family for a long time. Like, they just are programmed to be rich. It sounds crazy, but it is true. And I know some of these people, they don't have to work very hard, and money just comes to them because it has been instilled into their mind, whether they verbally said it or just as a product of being in that environment, that money comes easy. They're always going to have money, and they don't worry about money. But to get to step 2, you obviously are going to have to identify what your programming is. And one thing I really like about David Bear on YouTube, if you ever follow him, something that he says, finish this sentence, When I was young, money was blank, and you just heard mine. So finish that sentence for yourself. Now, the reason that you are so hardwired into that is because of repetition. Because it was said over and over and over for years and years and years, and then you turned 18 and you maybe went to a junior college and flunked out, or maybe you just went straight to work, or maybe you left before then. Maybe you left the house at 14 because of family problems, and most of those are going to stem from money problems. Like your parents are frustrated, therefore they lash out at you. But when you left, you just took all that with you. All that programming is in your brain. It doesn't get left at the front door. So, repetition is what made that so hardwired, okay? What you put your attention on is where you put your energy, and where you put your energy is what manifests into your reality. So, you had been putting so much attention on that, you just took that right out the door into your own life, into adulthood. So, if repetition is what created the problem in the first place, repetition is what's going to be the solution. And that's what I've experienced over the last 3 to 4 years of my life. And thank God that I ran across this knowledge. And it goes right in line with, my faith as a Christian. And if you want a good piece of literature about the kingdom of God and how this all kind of ties into that, there's a book called Kingdom Principles. Check it out. But anyway, so repetition. Now that you're an adult and you know this information, you have 2 options. One, you're not going to change a thing. You're just going to keep living. You're going to say that the stuff I'm saying is ridiculous. There's no way it could be that easy. There's no way that's how money works. Because money's just energy, guys. Remember that. We want to paint it in our head as this physical thing, these dollars and coins, these numbers on a screen. But at the end of the day, it's energy. Like, you go and exert your energy and somebody gives you their money, or they give you money in return. If you're wondering what that noise is, they're doing some construction over there, and that's like a crane lifting, but it sounds like a chalkboard. That is annoying. Anyways, so to reprogram your mind, you're going to have to reprogram your subconscious. You can't do it through your consciousness, through the conscious mind. The conscious mind is the mind that is thinking right here, right? The subconscious mind is the one that's in the background, making all the other vibrations work together. So, the way I have done that is through hardcore repetition, and it sucks. It's hard, dude. And I'll tell you, I'll manifest something I never dreamed of, like a $40,000 client. Holy crap, I never thought in my own little business, which is just a small business of 3 people, really 1, but that's neither here nor there. I never thought I could get a client that was going to pay us 40 grand. Okay, that's insane, but it'll happen, and it has happened. And then 2 weeks later, I slip. It's like a slippery slope. I slip back into the old way of thinking, and I'm worried about money again. So this isn't this isn't a shot in the arm quick fix. This is hard, and it has to be consistent. And you can do it. I believe in you because I can do it, and I'm doing it. But let's back up a little bit 3 years ago when I started to reprogram my brain. My friend TJ turned me on to a guy with my last name, Bob Proctor. And I love Bob Proctor. He is just an inspiration in terms of really breaking this stuff down into simple and easy to understand principles. But I was working for a TV show and I loved it. I learned so much. Don't disregard what you have now, okay? Because I was working for a TV show and I was only making, this is crazy, I was making $2,800 a month, $2,800 a month. Now, for a lot of people, they're gonna hear that and they're gonna go, what the hell are you complaining about, bro? $2,800 a month is a lot. Not in 2022 in America with 3 kids. And if you want to actually give your kids like fun stuff to do and go places. Like if you just want to float and sit in the yard on your off days, $2,800 will get you that. But if you want to travel some, if you want to put your kids in extracurricular stuff, which costs money, if you want to buy your wife gifts, if you want to have, multiple vehicles for multiple uses, if you want to have a house that you are proud to have parties at, all of that, $2,800 a month ain't gonna work. So that's what I was making a month. And when I discovered this, it was mind-blowing. Like when you first get into just the law of attraction, manifestation, all this stuff, and just vibrational concepts and how it works. Dude, it's like those newbie gains when you're working out. Like you'll get those newbie gains so fast. Like I was manifesting insaneness. Like I was making $10K in my business a month, still working at the TV show, making less than $3,000. Now, I was adding the numbers and I was like, okay, I'm making 13 grand a month. There's no need to quit the TV show because I'm able to hang, but I had no free time, no time to spend with my kids. I was working on the TV show 5 days a week, 14 hours a day, and on the weekends, I would film like a commercial or a wedding and, making good money, but had no leisure, no freedom. So I knew that wasn't gonna work. And so I left the TV show. I put my notice in and I left on faith. And now that I had these new tools, right, to reprogram my brain to basically have financial freedom and have freedom, there was actually no need to worry about a thing. Now you just heard that I do mudslide sometimes. And I think I did it yesterday for like an hour. But that's just part of the process, man. You just gotta get yourself back. But fast forward even more, right? Now, I'm not gonna say exactly how much I'm making, but it is significantly more than $13,000 a month. And I'm working way less, like 6 days at the most, The rest of my time is spent with my kids, playing soccer, going to soccer games, like professional games, going on vacation, helping my friends. There's a lot of friends that are on their own entrepreneurial journey at the moment, and they're constantly calling me for questions, and I guess you'd call it advice, but I spend a lot of my time doing that. I spend a lot of my time whiteboarding new ideas because I've got such a system in place for the current business, and I have added 2 people to the business, which makes life a lot easier because I'm not doing every single little thing, and they're out selling, so they're bringing in more revenue. But this is an episode to just sit and brag. I'm not bragging. What I'm trying to tell you is you can absolutely do it. And if we back up even more, the TV show was a leap, and it was just sent by God, because it was during COVID when nobody was hiring, yet this TV show in Mobile was hiring a videographer. And I was there for 4 years, almost 4 years. But before that, I was traveling with the military, making videos for them. And in between those jobs, which were only like a month at a time, I wasn't making anything. Thank God for my wife, because she's a nurse. And as you probably would guess, with that profession, you can get a somewhat steady income going of, $2,000 to $3,000 a month, even just being a LPN, which is jokingly a low-paid nurse. But with all that being said, it was a struggle, man. We were living in a basement of her grandparents' house that we had converted into like a mini apartment, that every time it rained, the water came in and we would have to stack like 30 towels across the wall just to make sure that our daughter's toys and bed did not get wet. And it was all one room, mind you. It wasn't really an apartment. It was just a giant room. And you had to walk into the main house to use the bathroom or take a shower or go to the kitchen or anything like that. So I'm telling you this, not to brag. I'm telling you this because no matter where you are, this stuff can work for you. But like I tell my players on my teams that I coach, like I tell my friends that are struggling or are starting to try to build something, that want to know what I think, most of the work that you're gonna have to do is in between the ears, in the brain. Now, most of the work that needs to be done, God already did it. So that's even more exciting. You've got to do about 5% of the work. You have to have faith, and you have to start reprogramming your mind. Now, what does reprogramming your mind look? How does that look? How does it look for me? For you, you're gonna have to discover what it is. I'm just gonna tell you what I do. and maybe you can take some nuggets from it. You know, maybe it'll help you. For me, reprogramming my mind looks like this. I do not talk negatively about money. I do not talk negatively about my situation. I'm grateful for every single thing as much as possible. Nobody's perfect. But to love the bank account, to get the bank account you love, you have to love the bank account you have, okay? To get the car you want, you have to love the car you have. So appreciate what you have right this second. You know, I found myself struggling, like, why can't I scale? Why can't I make more money? If you would have rewinded to 2017 and told that version of myself, hey, you're gonna be making $20,000 a month or more, I would have been like, oh, we're in business, let's go. But just as humans, we are, you know, goal achieving machines. And so you're always gonna want more, and there's nothing wrong with that. You should want more. You should always grow. The other thing in that too is giving. So I'll go to my giving story real quick. Well, let me stick to where we're at. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. But meditation has helped me a lot. And really, I shouldn't call it meditation because it is prayer. I do spend that time trying to directly talk to God, but also think about the different things and goals that I have and things that I want. And when I'm in my prayer and meditation, I look at it as if it has already happened. I put myself in that position of where I am. I'm sitting in that house, I'm driving that car, I'm taking my kids to this place and my wife on this vacation, and I'm putting myself in the feeling state of what it would feel like to actually be there, and then kind of get lost. That's the one cool thing about meditation or meditative prayer. If you can get lost in it, it's crazy, because you'll come back and you'll forget that you were meditating. It's a little trippy, but that's what it looks like for me. And then I do a lot of journaling and scripting, which basically just means once a day I sit down with my journal, write the date out, and then write the first, it's like in 3 segments. The first third, I write all the things I'm grateful for. The second third, I will write, you know, all the goals and what's in my imagination. And the third is kind of my I am section, where I just declare it as true. And then throughout the day, I'm repeating those things, right? So I'm just pushing those things out over and over throughout the day. And that's just my process. But go into the giving story, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up, because it's probably the longest video I've ever done on this channel. Yesterday, I took my kids on a field trip, and on the ride there on a charter bus, I overheard one of the dads in front of me tell his daughter, oh no. And we went 3 hours away to New Orleans. I heard him say, oh no, I left my wallet in the truck, baby. We're not gonna have any money. And he's there with his, 6-year-old daughter. And in the heat of summer, as you can probably tell, it is hot down here in the South. And to not have your wallet at the New Orleans Zoo, where you're gonna be walking around for 4 hours with no money to buy a drink or refreshments. Of course they have water fountains, but him and his little girl are gonna be, just out there for the rest of the day and the ride back without anything, okay, right? And this isn't a guy who's like struggling. He just forgot his wallet. He works hard. It's just that kind of thing. He's also that kind of guy. He's not gonna ask for anything. He's gonna figure it out. Well, when everything started settling down, he sat down, he couldn't find his wallet. He realized that he wasn't gonna find his wallet. He had, in fact, left it in the truck. I tapped him on the shoulder and said, hey man, when we get there, let's go to the ATM. I'll get you out $100, and that should hold you guys over for the day, I think. And we'll just relink later. Like, if you want to pay me back, that's fine. If not, it was more for him. I knew he was going to be adamant about paying me back. I wasn't necessarily going to worry about it, and I'm still not worried about it. I haven't seen him since then, so we got off the bus and we rode back with my wife. We didn't get back on the bus and go back to his truck, so I'm really not going to push it. He's got my number, but what it showed me was God has given me so much in terms of just all the blessings through my work, through my mind, through the kingdom of God. He has just poured blessings onto me. And I really haven't given that much away. You know, I've given a lot of knowledge away. I've helped a lot of people. Just, you know, somebody says, we don't have anybody to help with this event, like I'll show up in town and do that. Or, you know, I just try to be helpful. But in terms of actual money, I just haven't given a lot away. And so when I did that, I don't know, there was something that it did for my soul. You know, I was like, this is me putting back into God's kingdom, you know, a little, I mean, just a tiny fraction of what he's given me. And so that's my story. You know, if you can, whenever you do get to that place of abundance and that place where you feel like you are manifesting just loads of blessings, loads of abundance, and living that way that you really were designed to do, you know, try to, when the opportunity arises, give some of that back. You'll be happy you did. Anyway, guys, we've made the whole loop. I don't even know how long this video is, but if you enjoy this content, like and subscribe. And if you have any cool stories or things that have happened to you, or even questions, throw them in the comments. If you've subscribed lately, I really appreciate that. I saw we had 2 more subscribers yesterday. And, you know, to have the subscribers you want, you got to be grateful for the ones you got. So I'm grateful for the 20 subscribers on this channel. If it helps one person, it was all worth it. I really enjoy it. So